You don't belong here, the wealthy woman said coldly, blocking the school entrance. 8-year-old Keisai clutched her math award invitation, tears filling her eyes. Her mother's shock turned to fury. What happened next would change everything, leaving the cruel woman speechless and the entire community stunned. Before watching full story, comment below from where are you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The evening air was warm as Amara walked slowly toward Lincoln Elementary School, her daughter Keisai's hand tucked safely in hers. The school's windows glowed with golden light, and she could hear the sounds of laughter and celebration coming from inside. Tonight was the annual award ceremony, and Keisai had worked so hard for this moment. Amara looked down at her daughter with pride. Keisai's dark eyes sparkled with excitement behind her thick glasses. Her beautiful cornrow braids, adorned with small golden beads, caught the light from the school entrance. Despite the leg braces that helped her walk, Keisai moved with determination and grace. "Mama, do you think I really won?" Keisai whispered, clutching her invitation letter tightly in her small hands. "The letter says you did, my sweet girl," Amara replied, adjusting her own head wrap, a vibrant piece of Kent cloth that had belonged to her grandmother. "You worked harder than anyone in your math class. You deserve this award." Amara wore her best dress, a simple but elegant navy blue outfit that she had saved for months to buy. Her natural hair was styled in a beautiful twist out that framed her face perfectly. She wanted to look her best for Keisai's special night. As they approached the main entrance, other families were streaming in. Children in their Sunday best ran ahead of their parents, excited for the celebration. Amara noticed how some parents glanced at them, some with kind smiles, others with curious looks. She was used to the stares. A young black mother with a disabled daughter always drew attention in their mostly white neighborhood. They reached the front doors of the school where tables were set up for check-in. The lobby was decorated with colorful balloons and banners congratulating the award recipients. Keisai's eyes grew wide with wonder. "It's so pretty, Mama," she exclaimed. Before Amara could respond, a sharp voice cut through the cheerful noise around them. "Excuse me. Excuse me." Amara turned to see a woman marching toward them with purpose. The woman was tall and thin, wearing an expensive cream-colored suit and pearls. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled, and her makeup looked like it had been applied by a professional. Everything about her screamed wealth and authority. "I'm Mrs. Pemberton, head of the Willowbrook HOA," the woman announced, stopping directly in front of them. Her cold blue eyes looked Amara up and down with obvious disapproval. "I need to see your invitation." Amara felt her stomach tighten, but she kept her voice calm. "Of course." She gently took the letter from Keisai's hands and held it out. Mrs. Pemberton barely glanced at it before shaking her head. "This won't do. I'm sorry, but this event is for families from our community only. You'll need to leave immediately." The words hit Amara like a physical blow. Around them, other families had stopped talking and were now staring openly. Children whispered to their parents, pointing at the scene unfolding before them. "I don't understand," Amara said, her voice steady despite the shock coursing through her. "My daughter Keisai received this invitation because she won the Mathematics Excellence Award. We live in Willowbrook on Maple Street." Mrs. Pemberton's laugh was cold and dismissive. "I know every family on Maple Street and you certainly don't belong there. Now please don't make this more difficult than it needs to be. Just go." Keisai looked up at her mother with confusion and growing fear. "Mama? Why can't we go in? I won the award. The letter says so." Amara felt anger rising in her chest like a fire. Her hands trembled slightly, but she placed one protectively on Keisai's shoulder. How dare this woman embarrass her daughter like this? How dare she assume they didn't belong? "Ma'am," Amara said, her voice growing stronger, "I think there's been a misunderstanding. We have every right to be here. My daughter earned this award through her hard work." "Your daughter?" Mrs. Pemberton's eyebrows shot up in mock surprise. "Well, perhaps there's been some kind of charity program I wasn't informed about. But regardless, this is a private community event. I'm going to have to ask security to escort you out if you don't leave voluntarily." The crowd around them had grown larger. Amara could feel dozens of eyes on them. Some people looked uncomfortable with what they were witnessing, but no one spoke up. No one defended them. The silence felt almost as painful as Mrs. Pemberton's words. Keisai began to cry softly, still clutching her invitation. The golden beads in her braids caught the lobby lights as her small body shook with confusion and hurt. "Please don't cry, baby," Amara whispered, kneeling down to her daughter's level. But inside her heart was breaking. This was supposed to be Keisai's moment of triumph. Instead, it was becoming a moment of humiliation. Mrs. Pemberton crossed her arms and tapped her expensive shoe impatiently. Well, are you going to leave, or do I need to call security? That's when something shifted in Amara's expression. The shock and hurt transformed into something harder, more determined. She stood up slowly, her full height making her nearly as tall as Mrs. Pemberton. Her dark eyes, which had shown confusion moments before, now blazed with quiet fury. You want to know who I am? Amara asked, her voice low but carrying clearly through the now silent lobby. You want to know if I belong in Willowbrook? Mrs. Pemberton rolled her eyes. I really don't have time for dash. My name is Dr. Amara Okafor, Amara interrupted, her voice growing stronger with each word. Dr. Amara Okafor. And I am the new superintendent of this school district. The lobby fell completely silent. Mrs. Pemberton's face went white, then red, then white again. I am also, Amara continued, the owner of the largest house on Maple Street, the Victorian mansion at the end of the road that you probably drive past every day. The one with the circular driveway and the garden that the neighborhood association features in their newsletter. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Several people had their phones out, some clearly recording the confrontation. Furthermore, Amara's voice was now carrying the authority that came with years of education and leadership. I hold a PhD in educational administration from Harvard University, a master's in special education from Stanford, and I have spent the last 15 years transforming failing school districts across the country. Mrs. Pemberton opened and closed her mouth like a fish out of water, but no sound came out. The school board hired me 6 months ago with the specific mandate to address issues of inclusion and equality in our district, Amara continued. I moved to Willowbrook specifically because I wanted my daughter to attend the schools where I would be working. I wanted to understand the community from the inside. The crowd had grown even larger, with people streaming out of the auditorium to see what was happening. Teachers and school administrators were pushing through the crowd, their faces showing recognition and horror as they realized what was taking place. Dr. Okafor. Principal Martinez rushed forward, his face flushed with embarrassment. I'm so sorry. I had no idea dash. Don't apologize to me, Amara said firmly, but her voice was gentler now. Apologize to my daughter. Apologize to Kaysai, who has worked harder than any child should have to just to prove she belongs. She looked back at Mrs. Pemberton, who was still standing frozen in shock and humiliation. You assumed we didn't belong because of how we look, Amara said quietly, so only Mrs. Pemberton could hear. You saw a young black mother and her disabled daughter, and you decided we weren't worthy of your community. You didn't see a doctor or a homeowner, or a child who earned her place here through excellence. Mrs. Pemberton finally found her voice, though it came out as a strangled whisper. I didn't. I thought. You thought what exactly? Amara asked. That black families can't afford to live in nice neighborhoods? That disabled children can't be brilliant? That someone like me couldn't possibly be qualified to run your school district? The truth hung in the air like a heavy weight. Mrs. Pemberton had revealed her prejudices for everyone to see, and there was no taking it back. Mama, Kaysai tugged on Amara's dress. Can we go get my award now? I still want to show you. Amara's expression softened completely as she looked down at her daughter. Despite everything that had just happened, Kaysai was still thinking about her achievement. The resilience of this little girl never ceased to amaze her. Yes, baby. Let's go celebrate your hard work. As they walked toward the auditorium, the crowd parted like the Red Sea. People whispered apologies as they passed. Some reached out to touch Kaysai's shoulder or congratulate her. The mood had completely shifted. Behind them, Mrs. Pemberton stood alone in the lobby, her expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume, her authority completely stripped away. Several community members were already turning their backs on her, clearly disgusted by what they had witnessed. Inside the auditorium, the award ceremony continued, but word of what had happened spread quickly through the crowd. When Kaysai's name was called for the Mathematics Excellence Award, the entire auditorium erupted in applause. It was more than polite recognition. It was a community trying to make up for the injustice they had just witnessed. Kaysai made her way to the stage with her leg braces clicking softly on the floor. She accepted her award with a huge smile, her earlier tears forgotten. When she reached the microphone, she looked out at the crowd with confidence. Thank you for my award, she said in her clear, sweet voice. I love math because numbers don't care what you look like or how you walk. They just care if you're right. The applause was thunderous. Later, as they walked to their car, Kaysai clutched her award certificate and medal. Mama, Why was that lady so mean to us? Amara considered her answer carefully. She didn't want to fill her daughter's heart with bitterness, but she also couldn't pretend that prejudice didn't exist. Some people make judgments about others based on things that don't matter, she said finally. They look at our skin color or your leg braces and think they know everything about us. But they're wrong. Are you going to fire that lady? Keisai asked with the directness that only children possess. Amara smiled despite everything. She doesn't work for the school district, baby. She's part of the neighborhood association. But I think after tonight, people in our community understand better what kind of person she really is. As they drove home through the tree-lined streets of Willowbrook, Amara reflected on the evening. It had been painful and humiliating, but it had also been revealing. The community had seen Mrs. Pemberton's true colors, and they hadn't liked what they saw. More importantly, Keisai had seen that her mother would always stand up for her, would always fight for her right to be treated with dignity and respect. The next morning, Amara's phone began ringing early. The first call was from the mayor, apologizing for the incident and asking how the city could do better. The second was from the president of the school board, expressing their full support. The third was from a reporter who had seen the video that was now viral on social media. By noon, Mrs. Pemberton had resigned from her position with the HOA. By evening, the neighborhood association had passed a new set of guidelines about inclusion and respect. But the most important call came from Principal Martinez. Dr. Okafor, he said, several teachers witnessed what happened last night. They want to implement new programs to ensure all students feel welcome and valued. Would you be willing to help us develop something? Amara looked across the room at Keisai, who was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework, her award certificate proudly displayed on the wall behind her. Yes, Amara said. I'd be honored to help. Sometimes, she thought, the most difficult moments became the most transformative ones. What had started as an attempt to humiliate and exclude had instead become a catalyst for change. That evening at dinner, Keisai looked up from her plate with a serious expression. Mama, I've been thinking about what happened yesterday. What about it, sweetheart? I think that lady needed to see us. She needed to learn that being different doesn't mean being less than. Amara reached across the table and took her daughter's hand. At only 8 years old, Keisai already understood something that many adults struggled with, that diversity was not a threat, but a gift. You're absolutely right, Amara said. And I'm proud of how you handled yourself. You showed grace under pressure. Like you did, Keisai replied with a smile. As they cleared the dishes together, Amara felt a deep sense of hope. The confrontation with Mrs. Pemberton had been painful, but it had also opened doors for important conversations in their community. It had shown other parents and children that standing up to prejudice was not only possible but necessary. Most importantly, it had shown Keisai that she had every right to take up space in the world, to expect respect and to demand equality. The award certificate on the wall caught the evening light, a symbol not just of academic achievement, but of perseverance in the face of discrimination. It represented everything that was possible when talent was recognized and nurtured, regardless of race or ability. Outside their window, the neighborhood looked peaceful and beautiful. But Amara knew that real beauty came not from perfect lawns and expensive houses, but from communities that embraced all their members with dignity and respect. The work of building that kind of community was never finished, but last night had been an important step forward. And Amara was ready to continue that work, both as a superintendent and as a mother raising a brilliant, determined daughter who would never let anyone tell her she didn't belong.